What's up folks, I'm Dev and welcome to my Premiere Pro Beginner's Guide. Today we'll be going over the basic functions of Premiere Pro and how you would go about creating an edit from start to finish. This is a beginner guide, so I'll be approaching this as if you've never touched Premiere Pro before. If you have any experience with Premiere Pro, this might not be the video for you. First up, I'm assuming you have a copy of Premiere Pro and have started the program. You should be looking at a screen like this. To start the project, first you'll need to click on Skip right here, then it'll automatically open this window. If you had a previous project you want to work on, simply click on it. However, today we will want to open a new project. Once you've clicked New Project, you'll have to enter the project settings. You don't need to worry about anything here except the name and location, so make sure you name it something memorable and you know where it's going to be saved. Then click OK. You'll be greeted with the editing window. You can see along the top of the screen there are a number of panels which are used for different functions. Mainly, you'll be using the editing panel as you can access most other functions from there. All the panels have their uses and you can even create your own custom workspace with all your own windows, but I'll go over that in the advanced tutorial. In the editing panel, there are a number of windows. Starting from the top left, you have the source window, effect controls, audio clip mixer and metadata. The source window will show you a preview of any clips that you've selected from your project folder. The effect controls are what you use to adjust and manipulate the settings of the clip. For example, position, scale, opacity and rotation. If you were to add any effects to the clip, the settings for that specific effect would show up here also. The audio clip mixer is specifically for audio clips and allows you to see and adjust the volume level of each audio track in your sequence. The metadata tab shows all the internal information about the clip that is embedded into the data. Next up, we have the preview window. This will show you a preview of any active sequences you are editing. If you have multiple sequences open, it'll show the sequence you are currently working on. There are a number of buttons below the preview window that have a wide variety of functions. You can even add and customize these buttons with the plus icon. I will be going over these in more detail in my advanced guide. All you need to know for now is that the play button in the middle plays the sequence and the shortcut is spacebar. You can also use these buttons here to set and clear the in and out points of the sequence. This is mainly used for pre-rendering and exporting, so I'll explain more about these in a moment. On the right of the screen we have the essential graphics and effects. As I stated before, the editing window is your main panel in Premiere Pro as many of the functions can be opened here. In this panel we have access to both the effects and graphics without having to open a whole new panel. The essential graphics helps you create interesting graphics and titles from templates, and the effects tab is where you'll go to locate all your effects and transitions that you can then place onto your clips. To add an effect to a clip, simply drag it from the effects window onto the clip. In the bottom left of the screen we have our project window. Here you can find all the media you have imported into the project. You also have another way of accessing your files on your computer through the media browser. From there you can select media and either drag it straight onto the timeline, into the project folder, or right click and select import. Finally, we have the timeline window. Here you can see all the clips and layers of the current sequence you're editing. In this window, you can see that it is broken up into layers, video on top and audio on the bottom. In the video layer, anything on top is what will be seen first. So, if you have two clips on top of each other without any adjustment, the top clip will cover the bottom clip. If you drag the edges of any of the layers, you can expand them to see more detail, like the audio waveform or the keyframes of a video clip. Keyframes are an advanced function of Premiere Pro. They're used to adjust settings over time. For example, if I wanted this bottom clip to slowly become visible, I could right click on the top clip, hover over Show Clip Keyframes, Opacity, and then click Opacity. This will show how the opacity changes over time. At the moment, it is at a constant 100%. If I add a keyframe at the start of the clip, and then go to where I want the bottom clip to become visible and set another keyframe, on the second keyframe I'll set the opacity to 50% so the bottom clip is now partially visible. If we go back and play this, you'll see that between the two keyframes, the opacity of the clip will slowly go from 100 to 50. You can also do this within the Effects Controls tab, which will give you more direct control over these settings themselves, but doesn't give you the waveform or graph depicting the change over time. Above the timeline, there are a number of functions to help you edit. One of the most important functions, and the only one that you need for a basic edit, is the Magnet or Snap tool, shortcut S on the keyboard. With this turned on, it'll automatically snap things to each other like the ends of clips and the playhead on the timeline. This is extremely helpful and saves a lot of time, but sometimes you do need a bit more precise control. With this function turned off, you can move the clips around with a lot more precision. As I've said, these windows are all completely customizable. I won't be going into that in detail in this video, but the basics of it are, if you would like to move a window, simply click at the top of the window and drag it to where you would like it. You can click on the three lines next to the title of a window for the window settings. And if you want to add any new windows, click on Window at the top of the page and then select the window you want to add. To be able to create a new edit, you'll need some footage. There are a number of ways to import footage into your project. If we select the editing panel, we can either click on File, Import, and then select the file to import, double click on the project window and select the file, or simply drag the file and drop it onto the project window. If you drop the file directly on the timeline, it'll add it to your edit and create a new sequence, but we just want to add it to the project folder for now. A very important step is organizing your files. If you simply keep adding more and more files to the project, you'll find it difficult to locate the files you need at a later date. When you import a new file, make sure you name it to something distinctive. Then you can create folders or bins to organize and order your files. Just right-click the project window and select New Bin. Name your bin something unique and descriptive, then drag your file into the new bin. To make it easier to distinguish between file types and groupings, you can change the color of the label for a file. Select the files you want to change. You can select multiple files and folders with Control-click. Then right-click the color square, hover over Label, and select a new color. Editing is all about taking footage, cutting it, and rearranging it to create a flow and story. Having a clear and organized workspace with well-labeled files can help speed up this process greatly. Once you have your footage organized in your project, it's time to start editing. To do this, you'll need to make a new sequence, which can be done in two ways. First of all, you can drag the file down into the timeline. This will then automatically match the settings of the sequence to the settings of the footage. For example, my footage is shot at a resolution of 1920 by 1080, so the sequence has automatically set itself to that resolution. The other way is you can click on File, New, Sequence, and input your settings manually. In the sequence settings, you can choose from a number of different presets which are matched to different cameras and video types. If you click on Settings, you can choose the options manually. Here you can choose the resolution. Making sure you have the correct frame size to match your footage is key. You can change a number of other settings within here, but all you need to worry about is that the frame size is correct, and then give the sequence a name before pressing OK. Now we have a new sequence. If you didn't create the sequence using the footage, this is where we'll need to add the footage. One way to do this is to drag the file onto the timeline from the project window. This will add the whole file to the sequence. Another way, which is good for selecting specific sections of the footage, is to either double click on the file or drag it into the source window in the top left. From here you can scrub through the footage to find the shot you are looking for. Then you can select the start and end points from which it will add it to the timeline. You can do this by clicking where you want the clip to start and pressing this button here, or by pressing I. And then it's the same for the out point. Select where the clip ends, press this button, or press O on the keyboard. Then you can simply drag the image to the timeline. This will add the video and the audio that you selected to the sequence. However, if you only wanted to add the audio or the video, all you need to do is drag the footage from the source window using these buttons. If you drag from this icon, you'll only add the video, and from this icon, you'll only add the audio. Now the footage is in the timeline, we can start to play around with it. There are a number of clever tools available to help editing, and the better you get at knowing which tool to use when, the faster you'll be able to edit. Using the hotkeys can save a lot of time when editing, so I recommend learning the ones you use most often. The tools can be found on the side of the timeline here. From the top, first up you have the selection tool, shortcut V on the keyboard. This is the main tool and is used to select and interact with any of the footage or functions. Then there is the track select forward tool, shortcut A on the keyboard. This is used to select all files to the right of your cursor. Holding Shift will reduce the selection to only the layer you are hovering over, and pressing Shift and A will turn it around to select everything before the cursor. Then you have the Ripple Edit tool, which is shortcut B on the keyboard. Normally, if you drag a clip to shorten or lengthen it, it'll create a gap. With the Ripple Edit tool, you can change the length of a clip and it'll automatically bring all the clips after it along the timeline to close the gap. Then there is the Razor tool, shortcut C on the keyboard. This is used to cut your clips where your cursor is, splitting them into two separate clips. Holding Shift will cut all the clips in the sequence at that point. Next is the Slip tool, which is Y on the keyboard. This allows you to change where a clip is cut from the source footage without changing the duration of a clip. So, if you drag this along here, you can see in the preview window how it changes where the two clips are going to cut. Below that is the Pen tool, shortcut P on the keyboard. This is used to add points that can be then manipulated with the Selection tool. This can be used in many different ways, from creating shapes to adding keyframes in your clips to adjust things like volume, opacity and speed. Next up is the Hand tool, shortcut H on the keyboard. This tool is used to grab and move your view of things like the timeline and preview screen without interacting with any of the content. Finally, the text tool, which is T on the keyboard. This allows you to add simple text to your sequence. When you click on the preview window with this tool, it'll add a text box and a text clip to your timeline. You can enter your text and then manipulate this like any other clip. When you make any edits that may be challenging for the system to preview, you can select your in and out points on the timeline by pressing I and O on the keyboard, then hit Enter to render that section. This will render all the preview frames so that you can preview the edited footage smoothly. The preview window will usually default to full quality previews. Not only can this be difficult for many computers, leaving the preview jittery and unresponsive, but it's also unnecessary unless you're doing detailed edits with a high level of fidelity. You can change this by clicking on this button here and selecting 1/4 or 1/2. I usually have mine on 1/4 and then turn it up to full only if I need to check the quality of an animation or edit. Once you're happy with how your footage is arranged, you'll want to export it. First, save the project, either press Ctrl S or click File and Save. Then, make sure you have your timeline in and out points selected correctly. Click the timeline so it's highlighted and select File, Export, and then Media. This will bring up the export window. In here you can change a number of settings relating to the format of the rendered video. You'll get a preview of the video here where you can change the scaling as well as choose whether you'd like to render just the in to out or the whole sequence. On the right hand side of the window, the main thing you want to pay attention to is the format. H.264 is the common HD format. The preset is where you can select what you want to output the video as. Normally, leaving this on match source high bitrate is enough, but there are many options to fine-tune your render. Make sure both export video and audio are ticked, and then click on the blue name to select where you want the video to be saved and what it'll be named. Lower down, you can select things like bitrate and profile settings, but we'll go over that in more detail in the advanced video. What I would recommend for now is just to check that Use Maximum Render Quality is selected, and that the width and height are what you were expecting. 1920 by 1080 is 16 by 9 widescreen, and as that is what my original footage was, it has chosen this automatically. It'll give you an estimated size for your file, and if you're happy, you can either click Q to send it to Adobe Media Encoder, or you can click Export to have Premiere Pro render the file. And there you have it, your finished edit.
And I've ended up buying just a little mini toy drone.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed already, do yourself a favour, join the devolution.